Welcome to 101 Podcast. I'm your host, Rashad Phillips, and today I have an exciting episode for you to tune into. Before we get started, this is brought to you by Sherlon Champagne, the drink of champions. Now, why am I excited? Why am I so hyped? You should be hyped too. It's my favorite time of year. It's NBA draft prospect evaluation time. But what makes this episode so sweet is that I'm going to do something that I've never shared with anybody before. And I'm going to let you into the secrets and how I scout and how I evaluate players using my 12 metric positions dictionary. Now, if you're familiar with me already, you understand how this is going. But there's a few new listeners that I got to break this down for. So the reason I did this 12 position manual that I've been doing for over 10 years now, and I'm finally bringing it to the forefront, is that because of the draft, I've seen so many kids over the years that are misevaluated, that are misdiagnosed and shoved into slots that they don't fit because there's only 5 NBA slots in basketball. Overall, high school, college, NBA, too many kids are being shoved into the point guard role when they're not point guards, shoved into the small forward role when they're not small forwards, shoved into the shooting guard role when they're not shooting guards. And eventually they lose out on draft status, recruitment, money. I mean, all the above. I mean, there's notable names that this has happened to some degree. You look at the draft when Steph Curry was coming out. Steph Curry should have been easily a top 3 pick, but they didn't know what he was. They didn't know how to slot him. What is he? Is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? No, I don't know. We don't know. So he slid in the draft. You can use his teammate, Jalen Greene. They didn't really know what Draymond was. So they called him a power forward. Well, he's not really that. Is he a small forward? He's not really that. Well, is he a shooting guard? He's not really that. So he slid and went second in the draft. So this is the reason why I started to create my positions metric for days like this, so we can help the entire world of basketball learn how to evaluate players the right way. So today, I'm going to give you the prospects that are upcoming in this draft. But what I'm going to do different than anybody you'll ever see is that I'm going to slot these prospects in these 12 positions properly, so you at home can understand what the prospects truly are as position skilled players, and also for GMs, for scouts, for teams to understand where these kids and who they are without misdiagnosing them, which will make your drafting much easier than it has for years to come. So let's get started. I'm going to break down my 12 positions manual really quick before we get into the players. Let's get into it. So when you look at the traditional positions in today's game, it's broken down into only 5 slots, right? Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. Okay. But the game has evolved where players like Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, LeBron James, those guys don't even fit those 5 slots no more. And then you have, with those players, you have shades of other players that are coming up under them in the game of basketball that's following their trends that don't fit the 5 positions. So that's why I was able to create 7 additional positions to go along with those 5, giving a total of 12. So we're able to slot basketball players properly, especially when it comes to drafting prospects. So I do it in like trees, okay? Like a tree of 3. I have a guard tree, I have a wing tree, and I have a post tree, okay? The guard tree goes with TG, traditional guard, PG, point guard, CG, combo guard, HG, hybrid guard. That's the guard tree. Let's go over to the wing tree. Shooting guard, SG, small forward, SF, dual forward, DF. Now let's go over to the post tree. PF, power forward, HP, hybrid post, SB, stretch big, center C, point center PC. So there's all 12 positions divided up into 3 trees. Let's start with TG, traditional guard. This is the ultimate table setter type of player. They go above and beyond to make their teammates happy. That's what makes them traditional. One of the first kind that started way back in the 50s and 60s, where players were just really trying to get everybody else involved. But that style of player is still alive and well in today's game. Now, let's go over to the point guard. This player has the perfect blend of scoring, passing, vision. They do a little bit of everything depending on the situation of the game. Let's talk about combo guard. The combo guard is a little bit of a player that is a mix between a point guard and a shooting guard. They can initiate offense when they have to. They can be secondary ball handlers or first or be first in the offense, depending on the personnel that they have around them. So combo guard has been around for a long time, and this year's draft, there's a lot of combo guards. So I'm excited to talk about prospects in that department. Hybrid guard, one of the newer terms out there. The hybrid guard, one word to describe a hybrid guard is disruptor. They're a little bit of everything. They're a little bit of point guard. They're a little bit of shooting guard. They're a little bit of combo guard. They're kind of a mix of all of them. They're game plan disruptors. They're like the king cobras of the basketball court. They're very lethal. They're dangerous. And if you get one of those on your team, those are the type of players that can really mess up the game plan for the opposite team. So there's only 2 hybrid guards in this draft, and I'm gonna give you both of those guys going forward. Let's go over to the wing tree and start with shooting guard. Shooting guard is just the off-ball number 1 option, a player that's looking to put the ball in the basket at all costs. They're terrific offensive players. They can score in a lot of different ways, 3-pointers, fadeaways, a little bit off the dribble. They do a little bit of everything off the ball. Small forward, they have a little bit more offensive rebound and defensive rebound and responsibilities. They're like a bigger shooting guard, but again, they're looked to defend a little more. They're looked to be a little bit more physical than a shooting guard. So this year's draft, there's some exciting small forwards that I'll be highlighting in that slot. Dual forward, one of my favorite positions, the DF. This is the engine to an offense. This is the offensive initiator. This is a player that can do a little bit of everything, that has maybe some point guard responsibilities or point guard type of skill set, but they still do it from the wing standpoint of things because of their size. So this is one of my favorite positions, and this year's top pick may fit in that category of dual forward. We'll get into that later. Let's go into the post tree. Power forward is your typical back to the basket scorer, old fashioned guys that you throw it down in the paint and they can get you a bucket. Not much to say there. The next position, the hybrid post HP. Now these players are the versatile bigs, guys that can switch out on multiple offensive players. They're defensive anchors. They have great athletic ability. So these type of players are kind of the new evolution of the big that we're seeing take over the NBA. Stretch big, I mean, that name kind of speaks for itself. SB, this is a big that usually likes to hang around the third level and knock down shots. Yes, they have some ability to play with their back to the basket, but they prefer to really play face-up basketball and take outside jump shots. That's the stretch big. Center, we all know what that is. It's just a traditional big that plays physicality, physical type of basketball with his back to the basket, looking to score, rebounds the ball, doesn't have a lot of responsibility, but they're very important. Last but not least, the point center is basically a player in the post that initiates pretty much 90% of all of your offense like a Jokic does for Denver. But unfortunately, in this year's draft, there isn't any point centers. So I won't be able to highlight any of those kids this year because we don't have any. That just shows you how rare that position slot is. So with that all being said, let's get into the fun stuff and break down these players in each of the 12 slots. The first slot that we're going to start with today is traditional guard. So here's my top traditional guards that are in the draft so far. I have Josh Giddy at number 1. At number 2, we have Jason Preston from Ohio. At number 3, we have Ja'Cory McLaughlin from UCSB. Number 4, we have Desean Nicks. Now, let's start with number 1. Josh Giddey's from Australia. This kid is fantastic. He goes above and beyond to make his surroundings better. He delivers the ball on time. He can score a little bit, but again, he plays the traditional way of being the primary offensive initiator. So a lot of people have been giving him, the first round grade, which I agree with. And I look at him being drafted somewhere around 15. I look at the Washington Wizards as an intriguing team for Josh Giddy because obviously Westbrook is there, a hybrid guard. They have Cassius Winston, who's a point guard. But I really like Josh Giddy, a kid that you can kind of help nurture through the process and really be a solid player. Let's go with number 2 on my board here for traditional guard. Jason Preston is a kid that I've been so impressed with from day one. I made a thread about him when I watched him against Illinois last year, and he was just fantastic. And then if you know that Illinois backcourt, one of the most brutal backcourts in the country as far as the defensive assignments and how they play and get after you. Jason Preston just had his way with Illinois, and he was able to beat them with his vision, his playmaking ability, his IQ. He's a kid that, for me, reminds me a lot of Tyrese Halliburton, who was a lottery pick last year. Jason has a lot of those type of characteristics. He's a better athlete than what people give him. I believe he clocked a 40-inch vertical or somewhere close to that in the combine. He's been terrific at the combine. Numerous NBA scouts have called me and said, this kid can really play. I look at him as being a value second-round pick. I mean, there's a lot of teams that can use him in the second round. I like this kid trajectory. He has a fantastic story. He's an unbelievable kid. So I really love what Jason Preston will bring to the table for an NBA franchise. My number 3 guy, Ja'Cory, UCSB, a fantastic initiator, plays the game the right way, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. One of those kids, again, that you can get later on in the second round and allow him to just grow under one of your veteran guards and just learn the game. But I like this kid. He's had some impressive workouts thus far. And I look for him to be putting on the NBA jersey. Desean Nicks is an interesting kid. Was in the G League. He's completely transformed his body. He looks great. I like this kid going forward. I love his vision. I love how he throws guys open. And for the traditional guard, these 4 guys here, NBA teams, you have something to really pick through here in the TG section. The next position I want to talk about is point guard. Yes, I'm excited to talk about this one. Here's my top 5 point guards. I have Sharif Cooper at number 1 from Auburn, Marcus Zagrowski-Creighton number 2, number 3 Miles McBride, West Virginia, number 4 McKinley Wright, Colorado, and number 5 Dejan Giroux from Houston. So I've got a lot of questions about Sharif Cooper, so it's time for me to talk about him. I really like this kid a lot. He reminds me a lot of Tyler Ulis when Tyler Ulis was at Kentucky. Just his ability to make everybody around him elevate. The passing, his ability to score, the quickness, the ball screen reads, the vision of throwing guys open. Sharif Cooper does a little bit of everything. He's a wizard with the ball. He's always been a winner from his high school days. He just kind of carries that magnetism. That's what Sharif Cooper has. And there's rumors that he's grown a little bit. He could be 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". Doesn't really matter for me. I just love his skill set and what he brings to the table. Now, when we're looking at the draft, what teams need Sharif Cooper? I can give you a few teams that need Sharif Cooper right now. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I believe Philly has like a late pick, somewhere in the 20s. Philly needs to move up and try to get Sharif Cooper. I believe Sharif Cooper brings something to that Philadelphia 76er locker room that they have never had over the past 7 or 8 years. Sharif gives them stability. He gives them a leader. He gives them a ball handler, a guy that can take pressure off of Joel Embiid and make life easier. That's what Sharif Cooper brings to the table. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I do anything that I can to move up for Sharif Cooper. If I'm the Lakers at 22, I try to go for Sharif Cooper as well. The Lakers need point guard play. I don't know what they're going to do with Dennis Schroeder, but Sharif Cooper is a safe pick for your franchise because he's a leader. Imagine bringing a kid like that off the bench for your second unit and sometimes staggering him with the first unit because he has that type of aura that he can play on the big stage. So Sharif Cooper, really excited to see where he lands. I want to talk about the number 3 guy on my point guard list, and that's Miles Mcbride. This kid is kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but I love what he is. He's fast. He defends people. Anytime you sign to go to West Virginia, you know you're going there to play defense, right? Miles Mcbride did an excellent job of getting after guys, keeping that up-tempo style for Coach Huggins, and I believe that translates to the NBA level. Miles Mcbride is a winner. He won tons of games. I think he has 3 state titles in high school, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3, but winning follows him. I see him as a value second-round pick. Teams, the Milwaukee Bucks, you guys have the first pick of the second round. Miles Mcbride is a kid that I would use there. I just think that he has some winning qualities about him. Now, my next slot may be the deepest in the draft, and that's the combo guard. So let me give you my top 10 combo guards. Number 1, Jalen Suggs. Number 2, Davion Mitchell, Baylor. 3, Jared Butler, Baylor. 4, James Bouknight, UConn. 5, Bones Highland, VCU. 6, Trey Mann, Florida. 7, Ayu Dosunmu, Illinois. 8, Jaden Springer. 9, Tyson Etienne from Wichita State. And 10, Joel Ayayi from Gonzaga. So this is a exciting combo guard class. I mean, looking at these names, man, I'm just like going crazy. I've been watching film on all of these kids and just following them as the year progressed. So Jalen Suggs is the number 1 combo guard. I've gotten tons of questions about him. You know, Rashad, is he a point guard? I don't think he's a point guard. Believe he's a combo guard. I've said this time and time again, but he's the best combo guard in the draft. So that has something to say about why I have him slotted there. He does a little bit of everything. He's off ball a little bit. He has the ball in his hands. He's a former football player. So I like his toughness. I like his makeup. I just want Jalen Suggs to stay healthy. Kid, if you're listening, please stay healthy, because when you're healthy, you're so good, nobody can stop you. So where does he land, right? Where does Jalen Suggs land? Man, I would really like to see him going 4th to the Raptors. I like that. But I don't know. Houston at number 2, they're in a really good spot. They have a lot of players to choose from that number 2 positioning. But I like Jalen Suggs going to the Raptors. I believe Kyle Lowry will end up moving on maybe to the Lakers. I'm a huge Kyle Lowry fan. I think Kyle Lowry can either go to the Lakers or Philadelphia because they need a veteran point guard. So maybe if Lowry is moved, Jalen Suggs goes into the combo slot at Toronto and he plays with Fred VanVleet, another one of my favorite kids that I've loved watching play. So I see Suggs going fourth to the Raptors. We'll see how that plays out. Davion Mitchell is just remarkable. Probably the best two-way player in the draft. He has a Marcus Smart type of feel about him with offense, a better offensive player than Marcus Smart. There's no slight there, but Davion Mitchell, he was measured around 6'6", but his size doesn't matter to me because when you watch Davion Mitchell on tape, he plays a lot bigger than what he's measured and he gets after guys. So I think Davion Mitchell could go anywhere from 8 to 12. There's teams in that range that could really use what he brings to the table. Jared Butler, another kid that I love, a shot maker. I want you to get healthy, son, because you're such a terrific kid, and I love watching you play. You're such a shot maker. You have a little Kemba Walker in your game. Remember, I told you that a couple months ago. Get healthy, get well. We're praying for you, and hopefully everything goes well so we can watch you perform on the biggest stage, Jared Butler. So, man, I can talk about combo guards in this draft all day long. James Bouknight, UConn, man, this kid is a fantastic one-on-one wiggle scorer. The NBA is all about one-on-one scoring, and James Bouknight is one of the best one-on-one players. He's a fantastic athlete. I can see this kid going from, I like the Wizards, but I think the Memphis Grizzlies should really look at James Bouknight because Ja Morant needs another player that can put the ball in the basket to take some pressure off of him. Again, second unit scoring guys, there's not a lot of them in the NBA. I believe Bouknight fits that mold of being able to come off the bench for a team like a Memphis, the New York Knicks, the Washington Wizards, and his ability to score in bunches will be something that will help a franchise. My guy, VCU, Bones Hyland. Look, I've been high on Bones Hyland for quite some time, the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year. He's cut from the fabric of Jamal Crawford and Emmanuel Quickley and Lou Williams. He kind of fits those guys. And Bones is a kid that has terrific one-on-one ability. He can score on anybody. He's a dominant third level scorer, but he can initiate a little bit. And there's an infectious aura about Bones Hyland when you're in the room around him. He just kind of elevates everyone that's in his presence, and that's something that doesn't show up in the box score. Bones Hyland is a first round pick in my book. There's teams that could really use Bones. I look at Brooklyn with the 27th pick. I believe Bones Hyland fits the Brooklyn Nets because Spencer Dinwiddie is leaving out. Karis LeVert is gone. So Bones Hyland fits that Brooklyn Nets team perfectly in his style of play. He just kind of fits with that organization, that direction they're going with Steve Nash and company. Trey Mann is another one of those guys, a lot like Bones Hyland and Bouknight. He's just a terrific one-on-one scorer. He has fantastic footwork. He's able to just get guys leaning one way, go the other, makes shots. I believe he shot 40% from three. I like Trey Mann a lot. It's funny because I watched this kid in high school, and I always believed that what he did in college was just a small sample of the talent that he truly has. We have not yet seen the best what Trey Mann has. So the NBA, this is the stage for us to really see what he truly is, and that's a dynamic scorer. Now, as a kid, I want to talk about the last but not least kid I want to talk about on this combo guard list. is Tyson Etienne from Wichita State. So a lot of people are not giving this kid enough credit. This kid was the player of the year in the AAC, which had a team in the Final Four in Houston with Quentin Grimes. Obviously, they shared the player of the year, but here's what I love about Tyson Etienne, and you have to watch his tape. This kid is one of the better perimeter players in the entire draft. Tyson Etienne shot 40% from three. He reminds me so much of a Terry Rozier. When Terry Rozier was coming out of Louisville, I was extremely high on his ability. So when I watch Tyson's game, he has fantastic ability to get around guys. He's strong. He has great upper body strength. And when we're talking about the Trey Mans and the Boat Knights and the Bones Highland, it's bothering me that nobody's bringing up Tyson Etienne's name. Like, this kid is in the same fabric as those other kids that are supposed to be first round picks. Tyson Etienne is one of those as well. On top of that, this kid was able to win Player of the Year with a brand new coach. So that tells you the character of this kid. He comes from a fantastic background. He's well spoken. He just carries himself like a professional. If I'm an NBA team, I'm knocking down the doors to try to find a place for Tyson Etienne from Wichita State. This is a kid that you'll remember. He's really good. Look him up. Shot 40% from three. Player of the year in the AAC. And that says a lot because he has a new coach, Tyson Etienne, Wichita State. Now to my last slot on the guard tree, which is the hybrid guard. But there's only two hybrid guards in this year's draft class that fits this slot. Number one, Kobe Ross from Pepperdine, and number two, Oral Roberts, Max Abmas. Now, let's break these two kids' games down and tell you why it's important that they're slotted here. I got to break this down. This goes a long way. So when you look at Kobe Ross, this kid is a disruptor. You turn on the tape, he just causes nightmares for the opposing teams. He's Pepperdine's all-time leading scorer. I believe he's tops in assists, steals, and rebounds. Like, this kid does a little bit of everything. He's a fantastic scorer. He's a great free throw shooter. I watched him against USC, and the 38-point performance against USC, he was the best player on the floor because his style was just so unique. He does a terrific job of reading ball screens. He's great in transition, drawing fouls, and just using his overall offensive skill set to break down the defense. And this is why it's important that Kobe Ross is slotted in the hybrid guard slot. This is so important. You got to pay attention to this. Because if you put Kobe Ross, and a lot of teams is doing this, and that's why his name is not coming up. Because if you put him in a point guard slot, then he drops down positions. He may be 6th or 7th on the point guard slot, but he's number 1 in the hybrid guard slot. So a lot of teams need to understand that Kobe Ross is number 1 in the position that he plays in this draft. That's why you have to consider looking at this kid. Even if you draft him, undrafted, give him a two-way, but that's why Kobe Ross is so important in this draft process, because he's number 1 at a slot. This is what Steph Curry was coming out of college. He was the number 1 hybrid guard, but they were slotting him as a point guard, so he fell behind guys like Ricky Rubio or Flynn, guys that were drafted in front of him, because on the draft board, you had Steph Curry as a point guard. But if you would have had him slotted as a hybrid guard, he would have been number 1. That's why Kobe Ross is so important in this draft. Number 2, obviously, Max Abmas, another kid that we all watched in March Madness, and he was the epitome of being a disruptor. The opposing coaches had no answer for him. They beat Ohio State, they beat Florida, and they took Arkansas to the brink because Oral Roberts had a hybrid guard to the highest degree on the court. Now, with this position, there's different kind of layers to hybrid guard. The Steph Curry hybrid guard is the upper echelon of the position. But you still can be a hybrid guard, but you don't have to be the Steph Curry hybrid guard. There's different shades to the position. So when I'm talking about Kobe Ross and Max Asmus and kids that fit under the hybrid guard, I'm not saying that they're Steph Curry. I'm saying they come from the same fabric, just so we get that understanding. Now that we're finished with the guard tree, we're going to move over to the wing tree and start with small forwards. There's some really highlighted players that can fit certain teams. So here's my top 10 small forwards. Jonathan Kuminga, Greg Brown, Jalen Johnson, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Trenton Wofford, Kessler Edwards, Raekwon Gray, Zaire Williams, Isaiah Livers, Franz Wagner. Those are my top 10 small forwards in this draft. So I want to break down a few of them. Obviously, Kuminga is a player that can be a top 5 pick, maybe top 3. So from 3 to 5, I could see the Orlando Magic taking Kuminga at 5. And if Cleveland wants to try to, get cute with their picks, Kuminga could go there as well. But this kid is a 6'9", uber athletic type of kid that's still a little bit raw offensively, but I still love what he brings to the table. Jalen Johnson is a kid that, he kind of stopped playing college basketball early. He left the team earlier in the season, and he took a lot of backlash for that. But let's talk about Jalen Johnson really quick. This is a very versatile kid, a 6'9" and some change type of player, and I believe he has the makeup to be a great defensive player at the NBA level. I look at a team like Golden State at 7 that make it use his defense and also kind of preparing him to carry an offensive load with the second unit. Very talented kid. If you look at his tape at Duke, the tape doesn't pop out at you with Jalen Johnson. You're not going to be like, oh, this guy is great and this and that, and he should be the number 1 pick. His tape doesn't do that. You just have to dig deeper and look at the style of player that he is. And I believe he's still a top 10 pick from what he put out on tape. Look for Golden State to be in the sweepstakes for Jalen Johnson if they don't try to trade and make things happen. But I think that kid has a chance to be a very productive NBA player. Here's a kid I want to talk about, man, in this small forward bunch, and that's Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine, man. I really like this kid. I love his tape. 6'8.5", 6'9", great athlete, plays with a quick twitch. He's powerful. He can play with his back to the basket. He can knock down shots from 15, 16 feet. He can knock down the college 3. He's the ultimate complementary type of player that you want on your team. And I know Pepperdine didn't get a lot of TV games and all of that, but this kid is as productive of any player in this draft. I believe he's a draft pick. The more you look at this kid play on tape, the more it just pops out at you. This is one of those players where you don't overthink it. Kessler Edwards, Pepperdine, I really like this kid a lot. Raekwon Gray has gotten a lot of praise within his camp. So I was able to dig into his film, and he can really play the game. Always been a winner from high school to college. Florida State, I don't know what it is in the water at Florida State. What are y'all doing to these kids? Because y'all send them to the NBA and they productive and they're playing at a high level. So there's no way I'm a bet against a Florida State kid. Raekwon Gray fits that Florida State mold. The Terrence Mann, the Jonathan Isaac, Patrick Williams. It goes on and Florida State, you guys continue to do a great job of preparing your kids for the NBA level. So Raekwon Gray, just on the strength alone that you come from Florida State, I'm going to bet on you, kid. Now, when you saw this top 10 of my small forward, there's a name that's missing that could easily be in this 10. And I feel guilty by not having him in my 10. So I'm about to talk about him right now, because he could easily be a first round pick and be productive. And that's JT Thor from Auburn. This kid is a 6'9", wiry, do-it-all type of player. He reminds me a lot of Tayshaun Prince when Prince was in Kentucky. Just what he brings to the floor is what these NBA teams look for. They're looking for like those 3-and-D type of guys, those players that can get to the basket, that can knock down shots, that can defend the opposing team's best player. JT Thor does that at a premium. He's left-handed, just like Tayshaun Prince. Great athlete. I want to apologize, JT. I think I need to put you in this top 10 because you're probably going to be the sleeper outside of Kessler in this small forward area. So again, keep your eyes on JT Thor from Auburn. Talk soon. Now, let's talk about the shooting guards. I'm excited to talk about one player in particular in the shooting guards, but let me give you my top 10 so I can get to talking about this kid because I'm very, very excited about this one. My number 1, Jalen Greene. Number 2, Cam Thomas, LSU. Number 3, Keon Johnson, Moses Moody, Terrence Shannon Jr., Corey Kispert, Chris Duarte, David Duke, Josh Christopher, Brandon Boston Jr. Those are my top 10 shooting guards. Obviously, we have to talk about Jalen Greene because this is a kid, he might be the most dynamic player in the entire draft. He reminds me so much of Zach LaVine, what he brings to the court, his terrific ability to get around guys, being athletic, his shot-making ability, his finishing towards the basket. He's a ticket seller, and there's rumblings that he could possibly go number 1 to the Pistons. And I understand that. I understand it. When I watch Jalen Greene, there's not a lot of players that just jumps out of the screen when you watch him on tape. Jalen Greene is one of the kids that when you watch him on tape, it just jumps out at you. Like it screams. And I'm just a huge fan of this kid. Now, there's not a lot of players that I would pay my hard-earned money to go watch play or purchase their jersey. Jalen Greene is one of those players that I'm paying to watch him. Don't give me tickets. I'm going to pay for it because he's worth the price of admission. I love Jalen Greene. Now, this is, I got to give a sermon here, okay, for this kid because I don't hear his name enough, and it bothers me that I don't hear his name. Cam Thomas is the best scorer in this draft.
Where is your favorite place on the floor to score?
Everywhere.
Step 3.
By a mile. Now, when I look at Cam Thomas' game, I see a kid that is an elite scorer. Now, I don't want to be Captain Obvious here, So I'm going to break it down why I believe that Cam Thomas is one of the best scorers that we've seen in quite some time. And I have a NBA comparison for you with Cam Thomas, and I'm ready to reveal it today. Okay. Here's one thing about Cam Thomas. This kid has been a dominant scorer since high school. He led EYBL in scoring. He was 4th in the country in college. He shot 88% from the free throw line. This is why Cam Thomas is going to be a special player. He already has an NBA identity in knowing what he is. A lot of times when rookies go into the NBA, they struggle with identity. Cam Thomas knows exactly what he is and what he's there to do, and that's put the ball in the basket. Now I'm going to go a step further with Cam Thomas. He's only 6'3" and some change. If Cam Thomas was 6'6", we will be arguing about him being the number 1 pick in this draft. The reason is because he's a player that knows exactly what he is, and he brings something to an NBA franchise that they already know he does great. They don't have to develop that skill. They don't have to wait on that skill. If he was 6'6", Cam Thomas will be in talks of being the number 1 player taken in this draft. That's how confident I am in that kid's ability as far as an offensive player. His style just epitomizes the way the offensive game is in the NBA. Put the ball in his hands, clear out, allow him to use his terrific footwork. This kid can score in a phone booth. Doesn't matter the defense. He's the best tough shot maker in this draft. And teams in the NBA seem to struggle with finding great scorers outside of their superstars. Cam Thomas fills that role. The draft is about supply and demand, and great scorers that they're demanded still in the draft, and Cam Thomas fits that as well. He's one of 17 freshmen in NCAA history to average 20 points on 55% true shooting. Now, here's the guys that he's with: Trae Young, OJ Mayo, Cade Cunningham, DeAndre Ayton, Steph Curry, Eric Gordon, Jamal Murray. Like, these are guys that this is great company. He's phenomenal in ball screen action. He was 6th in the country in points per possession. I mean, this kid is everything you want in an offensive player. Does he have flaws? Yes, he does. Is he an elite scorer? Yes, he is. Both can be true. Now, let's pull the curtain back, because I'm about to give you my NBA comparison to Cam Thomas. I need a drum roll. I don't know if we got the graphics for the drum roll. Cam Thomas is DeJuan Wagner. DeJuan Wagner was one of the greatest scorers that we seen coming out of high school. And then he took his great scoring to Memphis, where he averaged 20 points a game in his 1 year, and he became a lottery pick. Cam Thomas is DeJuan Wagner. That's the type of scorer he is. And that's my NBA comparison. If DeJuan Wagner didn't have the health issues that he had, unfortunately, we would have saw one of the greater scorers in the NBA. And I believe Cam Thomas has that same type of trajectory. Will he get there? We don't know. But does he have the skill level to be one of the best scorers in the NBA, coming off the bench like a second unit guy? Yes. And if he was 6'6", he could go down as one of the greater scorers that we've ever seen. Talk soon. So my last slot of the wing tree is one of my favorite positions, and that's the dual forward. So let me give you my top dual forwards in this year's draft. Cade Cunningham, Jordan Hall, Aaron Henry, and Herb Jones, Alabama. Now, Cade Cunningham, let's talk about this. This is why he's my number 1 dual forward in the draft. I've heard that he was a point guard and all of that, but see, that goes back to my theory of people slotting players in slots that they just don't fit. You know, I've heard point guard for Cade Cunningham. I've heard shooting guard and all these. Cade is a dual forward, and I believe that this kid will be the number 1 pick to the Detroit Pistons. How fitting, because my comparison for Cade Cunningham coming out of high school, he reminds me so much of Grant Hill. No, he's not as explosive as Grant Hill. He's not the athlete Grant Hill was, but what Cade does have that Grant Hill had is that aura and the way that he plays that dual forward position. Tons of responsibility, but I believe in Detroit is the perfect team to allow Cade to play a la Grant Hill and make guys around him better. He doesn't take up a lot of space in the way he plays the game. He'll be able to still get his 15, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. And as he gets better and as the Pistons continue to improve, you can build that team around Cade Cunningham. So this is why I believe Cade is the number 1 pick, because you can build around his skill set. And with the Pistons and what they're doing, this is just the perfect team for him to really bring back the ghost of Grant Hill. Now, the number 2 dual forward, a lot of people haven't heard about him, but if you turn on the tape, you'll be really impressed in how he plays the dual forward position, and that's Jordan Hall from St. Joseph. Yes, he's transferring to Texas A&M if he withdraws his name from the draft, but right now he's number 2 on my board as a dual forward. This kid reminds me a lot of Kyle Anderson from that DF position. He's big. He has great initiating type of skills. He makes guys around him better. He's a really good shooter. He's a good scorer. He uses his size well. Jordan Hall has a first-round talent in my book, just because there's not a lot of dual forwards in this draft, but Jordan plays a lot like Cade Cunningham. They have the same type of style, and I believe if you're compared to a guy like Cade Cunningham, who's going to be the number 1 pick, I think there's a place for you. There are some teams at the end of the first round that can use his services. Even if it's in the second round, Jordan Hall just has the ability of a pro. I believe he's going to be a 7, 8, 9, 10-year pro. He brings, again, those complementary guys that you need in the NBA. This is what he is, Jordan Hall. Look to hear his name. Third on the list as my dual forward is Aaron Henry. I haven't heard his name a lot around circles, but when you look at Aaron Henry, I love this kid's upside. He's 6'6", large hands, wingspan, fantastic athlete. Tom Izzo says he's one of the better, if not the best defender he's ever coached at the college level. I see Aaron Henry really having some first round interest because of what he is. Michigan State kids are prepared well to go into the NBA and understand their roles. Aaron Henry is one of those type of kids. Again, I like him sneaking into the first round. You look at a team like Denver, you look at a team like Utah that could really use a kid like Aaron Henry. Now let's move over to the last slot, my post tree, and break it down. Let's start with power forwards. There's a couple of kids that I really like, some international players that fit this slot. I want to break it down. Sorry in advance if I butcher these names, but here's my list. Alperen Sengun, international kid. Usman Garuba. Moses Wright, Georgia Tech. Loudon Love, Wright State. Derek Culver, West Virginia. So I want to talk about my top 2 power forwards in this draft. Let's talk about this Alperen Sengun kid. I like him a lot. Watched him on tape. 19 points, 9 rebounds. Just has a terrific skill set. 81% from the free throw line. So he has really good touch. Top 16, 17, 18 pick, just depending on the need of the team. But I like his productivity. Number 2 is maybe the kid that I like more than the other one. Usman Garuba This kid is a little bit raw offensively, but he's a great defender. He has a terrific motor. I look for a team like the Atlanta Hawks to look at him at 20 if Cam Thomas is off the board. I look at this kid as really fitting in to a defensive type of piece and developing a better understanding of offense as the years progress. But I really like Usman Garuba. Continue to keep watching his tape and dive into these international players. But again, Alperen Sengun and Usman Garuba, both of these international kids are going to fit in well at the NBA level. I love what both of those kids bring. I'm excited to see where they end up and following their progression as we move forward. Now, let's go to the stretch big. Again, my number one prospect in the stretch big is another international player. Let me see if I can get this name right. Roku Prakin. He's my number one stretch big regardless in the draft. Number 2, Trey Murphy out of Virginia. Number 3, Isaiah Todd. Number 4, Matthew Hurt from Duke. 5, Sam Huser, Virginia. Again, number 6, Dawson Garcia Marquette. Let's talk about Roku because I really like this kid. This is the epitome of a stretch big. Like, he shot 35% from 3. He took around 160 attempts. So he's proven that he can stretch the floor and make shots. I love his trajectory, and the more I continue to watch his tape, the more I start to like him, and that's why he's my number 1 rated stretch big. Let's go to number 2 because I don't think this kid is getting enough microphone for me. Trey Murphy out of Virginia. He is just a shot maker. This kid is a 50, 40, 90 player. He does a fantastic job of finding the weak spots on the court against guys, against zone. If you play off of him, he's a 40% three-point shooter, and that's not by mistake. Like, he is a natural shot taker. Again, like I said, a 50, 40, 90 guy. I look at Trey Murphy as a first-round pick as well. When you look at how the NBA plays with the point guard playing the ball screen, the picking and popping, Trey Murphy is one of those players that will make the defense pay if they try to help and cheat on the point guard. But let me tell you another skill that he has. He's not just a catch and shoot player. Trey Murphy has the ability to put the ball on the floor for 2 or 3 dribbles and create opportunities for himself. He's an underrated athlete. I just believe that Virginia kids don't get enough credit when they move up to the pro ranks because they're considered system type of players. But Trey Murphy, I believe he's going to be fantastic. You look at DeAndre Hunter, the impact that he's had with the Atlanta Hawks coming out of Virginia. Like, that school is starting to put some guys out there. Malcolm Brogdon is out there as well. It's something about the 50, 40, 90 guys coming from Virginia because Trey Murphy did it. Brogdon has done it in the NBA. So it's something in the water in Virginia. Trey Murphy, keep your eyes on him. The next slot we're going to talk about is the hybrid post. I'm going to give you my top 10. At number 1, we got Evan Mobley. Number 2, Isaiah Jackson from UK. Number 3, Scotty Barnes. Number 4, Kai Jones. 5, Charles Bassey. Number 6, Sandro from Seton Hall. Number 7, Felipe Petruzze from Serbia. Number 8, Justin Champagne. I don't know if I said his last name the right way, from Pittsburgh. Number 9, Oscar D. Silva from Stanford. Number 10, Pons from Tennessee. So obviously Evan Mobley is the kid that we've been talking about all year, the hybrid post, one of those versatile bigs that can switch out on multiple perimeter threats and provide that being a defensive anchor for a team. So Mobley looks like the kid that's going to go number 2 in the draft to either Houston or Cleveland. It's going to be interesting to see which team drafts him. I told you before, Houston is in a sweet spot because they can go dominant perimeter player and Suggs, or they can go dominant hybrid post and Mobley. So they have their choice of glitter right there. Number 2, Isaiah Jackson is a kid that really pricks my curiosity because he wasn't able to show his true greatness at UK this year. But this is a player that has some fabric of Dennis Rodman. His NBA comparison is Chris Boucher for the Toronto Raptors. But this kid is a fantastic rim runner. He has a crazy catch radius around the basket. He's a freak of nature type of athlete. I just believe that he's a lottery pick. You look at teams like the Spurs, the Pacers, the Charlotte Hornets. I look at those 3 franchises. I believe the Spurs has the least athletic unit of bigs in the NBA. So bringing Isaiah Jackson in kind of gives you a little bit more spice from that hybrid post position. And very quiet kid, but just very cerebral. He can do a lot of things that he wasn't able to do in college. Like he can put the ball on the floor. He can get his own shot. He just has some high skills that haven't been echoed yet. But I believe at the NBA level, he'll be able to show them. So I'm very high on Isaiah Jackson. Scotty Barnes, everybody wants to know, what do I feel about him? But I really like this kid. I watched him in high school. He just gets my highest grade as a defender. He gets my highest grade as a utility guy. And he's just one of those players that you want on your team. No, he's not going to go out and get 30 points, but he's going to elevate your surroundings. He rebounds. He defends at a high level. Like he can defend all 5 positions. He's a great passer. He's an initiator. He does everything on the floor. He's kind of that Swiss Army knife. So if I'm the Orlando Magic at 5, I believe that Scotty Barnes should be your guy at 5. Orlando has an 8th pick as well. If Barnes is still there at 8, Orlando should take Scotty Barnes, because when you look at what Orlando already has there with folks coming back and the addition of RJ Hampton and Cole Anthony and Mo Bamba, I like Scotty Barnes as that glue to keep all of those guys that I listed. He's the glue to keep all of them together. He doesn't command a lot of shots, but he's going to create opportunities, and he's going to be a player that puts it on the line every day and plays the right way. So again, another Florida State kid that you just don't want to bet against. If I'm the Orlando Magic, Scotty Barnes should be one of your picks. Since there's no point centers in this year's draft class, the last slot we're going to talk about is the center position. There's some intriguing names in my top 10. Let me break it down for you. At number 1, we have Luca Garza, Iowa. Number 2, Day'Ron Sharpe. Number 3, Nehemias Queta. Number 4, Trayvion Williams. Number 5, Kofi Cockburn. Number 6, EJ Onu. Number 7, Balsa. Number 8, Moesa Sisi. Number 9, Ariel. Number 10, Abu. I don't want to butcher their names. I've been practicing overnight, but I still just can't get those names down, so I apologize. But let's break down some of these players at the center position. People have been asking about Luca Garza and where does he fit in the NBA and how will he fare. He looked great in the combine. His body looks tremendous. He shedded the weight. He looks nimble. He looks mobile. So I'm pulling for you, big fella. I want to see you productive at the NBA level. Look, when I look at Luca Garza, he reminds me a lot of Vucevic. When Vucevic was here in Orlando, a lot of people questioned, was he worth the money? Could he really fare against the athletic bigs in the NBA? And Vooch answered that by making an all-star team. So I think Luca Garza has a chance to really establish himself early and just learn. I think practice, maybe some G League reps, all of that will help him understand the speed of the game. Because the only question I have for Luca Garza is the speed of the game. I don't question his game at all. Like, he's dominant. He's fantastic around the basket. He can step out and make jump shots. So I have no questions and no qualms about who he is as an offensive player. My question and what a lot of NBA personnel questions is, can he defend athletic guys? And I believe over time he will be able to do that. And he has transformed his body to be able to say to these teams, yes, I can. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to be maybe a first-round pick. I really like his kid. He's physical. He can get up. He has a good second jump. Centers are just hard to come by now. Like, they have to have some type of athleticism about them to even be warranted for these NBA teams. Trayvion Williams from Purdue, he's probably going to go back to school. I've heard that from his camp, but he'll probably come back next year from Purdue and be the number one center in the draft. So he's still in my top 10. But here's a kid I want to talk about. This EJ kid. And, I love talking about the smaller school guys. But looking at this kid, he's extremely decorated. I mean, EJ 4.5 blocks the season prior. Last year, 5.5 blocks a game, 40% from three. He won a national championship. The kid had offers from Florida, OSU, Texas, and he stayed at Shawnee State. And this is a kid that a lot of NBA teams don't know about but need to know about. Like, he's a terrific rim runner. I've watched some film on him, and I like what I see. So EJ is worth a draft pick. I'm not saying he's a first-round pick or anything like that, but you dig deeper into this EJ kid, you're going to like what he brings to the court. I mean, he's fantastic, great athlete. And Moisa from Memphis, I like him as well. He's raw, didn't get a lot of minutes, but again, he has some NBA qualities about him. Another Florida State kid is Big Bossa. This kid is 7'1", 7'2", terrific in the post, has some agility about him. So this center class is not per se the most exciting of the position slots, but there's value in the center position. Now, before we sign off, I want to talk about a few other kids that I didn't mention that I truly believe could be on NBA rosters come October. The first kid I want to talk about is Anthony Tarq from Coppin State. This kid is a 6'7", left-handed maniac with excellent stage presence. He's fantastic in transition. He plays with a high motor, and he's exciting to watch. Just turn on the tape when they played Duke. This kid was the best player on the floor. NBA teams should be calling Anthony Tarq's phone right now. How about Joe Wieskamp from Iowa? This kid is a 6'5" shooter that tested well at the combine. He had a game where he went 6 for 7 from deep. There's always room for guys that can make shots at a high clip. He's a specialist and he does it. Joe Wieskamp. Spencer Littleson, 6'4", out of Toledo. This kid reminds me a lot of Duncan Robinson. He led the nation in three-point makes at 47%. He has that Joe Harris, again, Duncan Robinson type of player. He's a great defender. Kid does all the right things. He's a great locker room presence. So if I'm an NBA team, I'm at least inviting Spencer Littleson to Summer League, bring him in for some workouts, because he's one of those players that can sneak on the NBA roster, and we'll be talking about his name down the line. One of my favorite kids to watch is Javion Hamlet, the 6'3" guard from North Texas. He's a terrific paint finisher. He's crafty. I just love his toughness. I love everything he brings to the table. And these are players that you need in camp on your roster. They're going to push guys. They're competitive. So I would definitely look at Javion Hamlet as a player that you want to give an opportunity to. Another prospect that I want to talk about that could make an NBA team is Farron Hunt out of SMU, 6'7". He's fantastic in transition. He's one of those prototypical wings, great defender, great two-way player. I watched him 2 years ago, and it just blew me away at his versatility, his ability to rebound the ball at a high rate. He's just a fantastic kid, a hard worker. If I'm an NBA team and I got one of those second round picks and I'm looking for somebody to come in and really work hard and maybe can carve out a career in the NBA, Farron Hunt is the kid you look for. He's fantastic, he's excellent, and he's one of the better prospects that you haven't heard about in this year's draft. Now, before we get out of here, I'm going to go over some of the first round picks and some second round picks as well. Let's just kind of touch them up right now. The Pistons at 1, I see them going Cade Cunningham. There's rumblings that Jalen Greene could go there as well, but I just look at the Pistons of, again, like I said before, Cade is just more of a Grant Hill type of player. And if they go Jalen Greene, I wouldn't be mad at it either, but I really like Cade at number 1. Number 2, Houston can go a few ways. Can they go Suggs, Mobley? I look at them going Mobley, which leaves the Cavs at 3, where I believe they take the most dynamic player in the draft, which is Jalen Green. He's just a fantastic player, and Cleveland could use a prospect like him. I believe they're going to end up trading Colin Sexton anyway and allowing Darius Garland and Jalen Green. Now you really get a fantastic backcourt there. The Raptors at 4, if they don't trade the pick, there's been rumblings about trading Siakam. I like Suggs there with Fred VanVleet. I do believe that Kyle Lowry may find another destination, and rightfully so, one of my favorite players in the NBA. Orlando at 5. They can go a few ways. You can go Kuminga here. You can go Scotty Barnes. 2 players that I really, really like. At 6, OKC, I see them taking Keon Johnson. He's probably the best athlete in the draft. He is a kid that has a tremendous upside. At 7, if Golden State doesn't get into the Ben Simmons sweepstakes, I like Jalen Johnson there from Duke. Terrific defender. Again, Orlando at 8. They should take Scotty Barnes here if he's not off the board at 5. I just like what Barnes brings to the table as far as you need complementary guys. That's what he is. 9, Sacramento. This is an intriguing slot for them at 9. What are they going to do with Buddy Hield? There's other good teams that may want Buddy Hield for a playoff push. So I think they should maybe go Moses Moody there, get themselves a shooter just in case Buddy Hield was out, and you get that insurance. At number 10, the Pelicans. I look at them taking Davion Mitchell. They could take Boat Knight there as well because he's a fantastic scoring. And I believe that Zion and Ingram needs another guy to help them with the scoring load. So Boat Knight can do that. Davion Mitchell can help in that department. Again, the Hornets, we'll see. Can they go Franz Wagner? The Spurs at 12. I like Isaiah Jackson going to the Spurs at 12. And I told you this before. I just don't think the Spurs have the athletic guys at that hybrid post power forward position. Isaiah Jackson just gives them some athletic ability in that slot. We can just look down the line. Memphis at 17. That's when you start getting into the Cam Thomas sweepstakes because Memphis is a team that needs scoring. I would try to trade for CJ McCollum, maybe over at Portland, or if you can't get that trade, Memphis, look at Cam Thomas. Desmond Bane had a terrific season, second team all rookie. You get a Cam Thomas coming in there to just help that second unit, put some points on the board. Cam Thomas is the guy to do that. New York, I've gotten a lot of questions about what are the New York Knicks going to do at 19. I really love Bones Highland at 19, but I don't know because they already have Emmanuel Quickley there and he's doing a terrific job. So I like Bones there, but they could definitely go with some other guys, man. Maybe Springer could go there. Let's talk about my Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta has the 20th pick. For me, this is, again, Atlanta needs some second unit scoring. This is the Cam Thomas sweepstakes. Again, it starts at like 17 for Cam Thomas for me. Atlanta could use him, or Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. He's a fantastic catch and shoot. You need guys around Trey that can catch and shoot. He epitomizes that. Or Usman Garuba from the international player. I think Atlanta could use his toughness. He does a little bit of everything. He's always coming up with the 50-50 balls. And I love his upside. So the Hawks got some good choices right there. The Lakers. And this is why I didn't talk about this kid earlier, because I wanted to save this 22nd pick. The Lakers could really, they can go a few ways here. Sharif Cooper, obviously, with the point guard play. But I like Josh Christopher, 22nd here for the Lakers. And Josh doesn't get a lot of media press, but when I look at this kid, there's one thing that he has, and why I believe he fits with the Lakers is because he has stage presence. And that's what I love about Josh Christopher. It just seems like he plays with a chip on his shoulder. He embraces the big stage, the big lights. The Lakers isn't for everybody, and this kid seems to want that type of attention. I think he thrives under those bright lights in the Staples Center. So if I'm the Lakers, I will look at Josh Christopher at 22. This kid has a DeMar DeRozan type of skill set. He's athletic. He's explosive. And I just think he has the moxie to put on a Laker uniform. So that's going to be an interesting one at 22. Philadelphia, again, at 28. Philly, do whatever you need to do to move up and try to get a point guard. Obviously, Sharif Cooper is the #1 point guard on my board, maybe on some other people's boards as well. Try to move up for him. The Clippers at 25. I like JT Thor from Auburn going to the Clippers somewhere in there. Utah at 30. I like Aaron Henry for Michigan State. I just think he's a sleeper first-round pick for the Utah Jazz. He's one of those kids that does everything the right way, comes from a program of discipline, and it fits perfectly with that Utah fabric. So I like Aaron Henry at the end of the first round. Miles McBride is another name. Again, we talked about him earlier. I could see him going to Houston at 24. New York has another pick at 21. They could go with the international stretch big and Rocco. I think he gives them jump shooting. If you watch the New York Knicks in the playoffs, they struggle with shot making. So I see them going after a kid like that. It's going to be an interesting draft. Greg Brown could end up with the Phoenix Suns at 29. So this is going to be interesting. So let's get to the second round really quick, and I'm only going to talk about my Detroit Pistons. I'm from Detroit, so I gotta talk to my Detroit people here. Detroit's in a great spot. Obviously, they have the #1 pick, but they got 3 second-round picks, and this is how they can nail the second round. The Pistons have a 37th pick, they have a 42nd pick, and they have a 52nd pick. These are the kids that I believe that the Pistons should take at 37, 42, and 52. At 37, I would take Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine. And I talked about him earlier. He's just a fantastic Swiss Army knife type of player. He's 6'8", 6'9". He does a little bit of everything. He can knock down shots. He can post. He can defend. He's very, very productive. So if I'm the Pistons at 37, I look for Kessler Edwards for Pepperdine. At pick 42, the Pistons, go get Jason Preston from Ohio. This is a kid that you can maybe stash away, allow him to get some G League reps, and later on in the season, bring him back up and he can maybe play in that second unit. But he has tons of upside. He's extremely cerebral, and he's a world-class person off the court. So I think that it's a perfect pick for the Pistons to take Jason Preston at 42. Last but not least, the 52nd pick in the draft the Detroit Pistons have. I believe you should take Anthony Tarq from Coppin State. This kid is 6'7", and he is an absolute maniac. He competes. He loves the big stage, and he can put the ball in the basket. He can knock down shots. He's a high field goal percentage shooter within the second level, and he just brings that tenacity. So Detroit Pistons, those are the 3 picks. Those are the 3 prospects I believe you should go after, and that helps your franchise rounding it out after drafting Cade Cunningham with the number 1 pick. I really appreciate you all for taking the time of listening to me ramble about these prospects. That this is what I do all the time. Basically, this episode is how I am all the time, even when the cameras are not on. I'm always talking about players. I'm always trying to break them down. I'm always trying to forecast where they're going to go. But again, I'm excited to see where these kids go, to see them walk across the stage, to see them receive phone calls and get invites to summer leagues and camps and all of that. And wherever they go, wherever their journeys take them, overseas, NBA, G League. But let's continue to keep the game authentic. Let's continue to keep the game pure. Again, this is brought to you by Sherlon Champagne, the drink of champions. I'm Rashad Phillips. This is One of One Podcast. Till the next time, talk soon.